Before starting, put the auto-generated YouTube subtitles in French or your mother tongue to get everything, and slow down or speed up the pace as needed. If you don't have time to watch it, just listen this video as a podcast while doing something else. Now listen and learn English as exploring our world. Alright, settle down, folks. Welcome to the show. Or, well, welcome to this YouTube video. Picture this. You're crammed into an airplane seat, knees somewhere around your chin. You know, the usual joys of air travel. It's a delicate ecosystem, a metal tube filled with recycled air. Then, one of your fellow passengers decides the rules don't apply at 35,000 feet. What's unfolding is pure high-altitude chaos. We are counting down the top 10 most uncontrollable airline passengers ever caught on camera. Spoiler alert, some of these adventurers got themselves arrested. So stow your tray tables, fasten your seatbelt, and prepare for some serious in-flight entertainment. Alright, first up on our hit parade of problematic passengers, we have a tale from the good old US of A. Imagine you're on a domestic flight, things are going smoothly. Suddenly, a disturbance in the force. A woman decides this Boeing 737 is her concert hall. She grabs the crew microphone. She launches into a full-throated Whitney Houston classic. The flight attendants try to intervene. She's probably imagining the roar of the crowd, ignoring the groans of her fellow passengers. Our high-flying chanteuse continues her unsolicited performance, undeterred. She ignores the pleas of the flight attendants. Passengers cycle through emotions: amusement, annoyance, disbelief. The plane makes an emergency landing. Authorities board to escort her off. She inspired the pilot to find the nearest runway. Next up, we journey from the melodious skies over America to a flight winging its way from New Delhi to London. A long-haul flight, folks. The kind where you settle in for the long game, hoping your seatmate isn't a chronic armrest hog, or someone who believes personal grooming should be a public spectator sport. But on this particular flight, one passenger decided the aisle was his personal yoga sanctuary. Our intrepid yogi begins to strike a pose. Full vinyasa flow right there between rows 15 and 16. You've got to admire the commitment, if not the situational awareness. All while the seatbelt sign is glaringly illuminated. This is taking finding your center to a whole new and frankly inconvenient altitude. The other passengers, initially perhaps bemused, are likely growing increasingly concerned. So, as our flexible friend is deep into his airborne asanas, a flight attendant politely asks him to return to his seat. You know, for safety reasons. Because turbulence and standing yoga don't mix well. It's a reasonable request, perhaps with a sheepish apology. But not our yoga guy. He's on a higher plane of existence and above such trivial concerns as safety. His response? Inner peace is more important than aviation rules. Wow, just wow. More important than rules preventing chaos or ensuring passengers don't become projectiles. Imagine if the pilot said, "Let's just see where the wind takes us." It's a bold stance, albeit one that doesn't hold up against FAA regulations. Flight attendants are trained for many things, but not philosophical differences about inner peace versus safety protocols. So when our yogi refuses to budge, other passengers decide they've had enough. If he won't listen to the crew, maybe he'll listen to fellow travelers who just want to get to London without drama. Eventually, our yogi is restrained. Not by meditation, but by other passengers. A little citizen's intervention at 30,000 feet. I guess his chakras weren't aligned with a safe flight. Perhaps he found inner peace while securely fastened to his seat. One can only hope he used the rest of the flight to meditate on not being a massive inconvenience. A valuable lesson, often learned the hard way, especially when you try to make an airplane aisle your personal ashram. Alright folks, picture this. You're on a plane, right? You've managed to cram your carry-on into the overhead bin, a minor miracle. You've settled in, ready for that terrible in-flight movie. Hoping for a few hours of peace, it's a delicate ecosystem. Unspoken rules keep us from anarchy at 30,000 feet. We all just want to get where we're going without incident. Now let's talk about reclining your seat. It's a move that can turn a fellow passenger into your sworn enemy. Is it your right? Is it an affront? It's the great debate of our time. Some recline with wild abandon, others recline just an inch. And then there are those who wouldn't dare. It's a gamble every single time. So one passenger decides to go for it. They push that little button, lean back and bliss out. But the passenger behind them? Oh, she was not having it, not even a little bit. Did she politely ask them to put their seat up? Did she sigh loudly? No, that would be too normal. Instead, she decided the best course of action was to start punching the back of the seat. That's right, punching it like it owed her money. And not just one or two frustrated jabs. We're talking a sustained rhythmic assault. For over 7 minutes straight. Imagine the dedication. That's longer than most people can hold a plank. What was going through her mind? Was she training for a boxing match and the seat back was her sparring partner? Did she think the seat was a particularly stubborn vending machine that had eaten her dollar? 7 minutes. That's commitment. I mean, my arm would get tired after like 30 seconds of that. Did she have an anger management problem? Or was she just really passionate about maintaining maximum legroom for herself, even at the expense of someone else's spine and her own knuckles? The other passengers must have thought they'd accidentally boarded a flight with a live-action Rock'em Sock'em Robots tournament. But wait, it gets better. After her 7-minute seat-pounding marathon, she wasn't done. She then had the audacity to threaten to sue the airline. Yes, you heard that right. The seat puncher decided she was the victim here. I guess for emotional distress caused by someone else's comfort? So, let me get this straight, ma'am. You repeatedly struck the seat in front of you because it was reclined, and now you want to sue the airline. For what exactly? For allowing their seats to perform their intended function? For not providing you with a pre-flight anger management seminar? The lawyer probably just slowly pushed a box of tissues towards her, or maybe a tiny violin. What were her grounds? They let him recline. It was an outrage. My fists are sore. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for her. And her defense, if you can even call it that, was probably something along the lines of, well, they started it by reclining. It's like a 5-year-old on the playground, except this playground is a pressurized metal tube flying miles above the earth. The airline staff must have been thrilled. First, they deal with a passenger who thinks she's Mike Tyson attacking a lazy boy, and then she wants to take them to court. You can just imagine the captain making the announcement, "Ladies and gentlemen, we may be slightly delayed upon arrival as we have a passenger who's threatening legal action because seats recline. We apologize for the absurdity." Ultimately, her attempt to play the victim card failed, as it should. You can't assault airline property, disturb an entire cabin, and then cry foul when things don't go your way. It's a masterclass in how not to handle airline etiquette or really any social situation. She didn't just fail to get any sympathy, she probably ended up on a few no-fly lists, or at the very least, became the star of a very embarrassing viral video. And she definitely inspired a new rule: no punching the upholstery, no matter how much you dislike reclining seats. It's just not a good look, folks. Alright, next up we have a guy who clearly watched Catch Me If You Can one too many times and thought, hey, I could do that. But instead of forging checks, he decided to try his hand at co-piloting a commercial airliner without any training or permission or, a job with the airline. It just waltzed into the cockpit. I'm not sure what's more concerning, his audacity or the fact that he apparently got that far. Whatever it was, the jig was up. The dream was over. Or at least this particular highly illegal version of it. So when the authorities caught up with our wannabe maverick, what was his excuse? It was my dream. That's it. It was my dream to be a pilot. Well, buddy, it's my dream to eat pizza for every meal and not gain weight. Some dreams are best left as dreams, or pursued through flight school, or a good flight simulator game. The police must have loved that one. Oh, it was your dream, sir? Well, isn't that lovely? Unfortunately, our dream is for people not to impersonate airline crew. So, if you'll just step this way, your new dream destination is a room with bars. It's just not a valid defense for anything. Imagine trying that with a speeding ticket. But officer, it was my dream to go 120 in a school zone. Yeah, good luck with that. It's amazing how quickly dreams can turn into nightmares. Think about the potential consequences if he hadn't been caught. What if he'd managed to disengage the autopilot? We're talking about a multi-ton machine hurtling through the sky. This isn't like sneaking into a movie theater. His dream could have turned into a nightmare for everyone on board. It's the kind of selfish act that boggles the mind. Did he think they'd be impressed? Wow, this guy has moxie. Let's give him a shot. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. So, a word of advice to anyone harboring similar dreams: if you want to be a pilot, hit the books, get the training, earn your wings. Don't just put on a suit and hope for the best. There are no shortcuts to the cockpit, unless you want that shortcut to lead directly to a federal penitentiary. And to the airlines, maybe, just maybe, a quick ID check before someone strolls onto the flight deck? Just a thought, or perhaps a secret handshake. Anything to prevent dreamers from turning a regular flight into an episode of World's Wildest Police Chases Aviation Edition. All right, our next contestant for most uncontrollable airline passenger takes us on a lovely flight from Moscow to Antalya, Turkey. A popular vacation route, I imagine. People are probably excited thinking about beaches, sunshine, maybe some nice Turkish delight. What they weren't expecting, I'm guessing, was an impromptu strip show mid-flight. Because one gentleman on this flight decided that the cabin temperature was just not to his liking. He was, in his own words, too hot. Now, planes can get a little stuffy, sure, but strip off all your clothes hot? I have my doubts. So what does our overheated hero do? Does he ask for a glass of water? Does he fan himself with the safety card? Maybe discreetly loosen his collar? No, that's for amateurs. This guy decided the only logical solution to his thermal discomfort was to remove every single stitch of clothing. Right there, in the middle of the cabin, just stark naked. I mean, talk about making an impression. I'm sure his seatmates were thrilled. Excuse me, stewardess. I think my neighbor has misplaced his pants, and his shirt, and everything else. It's one way to get extra legroom, I suppose. Now, the flight attendants on this particular journey deserve a medal. Faced with a naked man running amok, they had to spring into action. They used seatbelts and blankets to restrain him. It's like MacGyver meets Project Runway Emergency Edition. You have to admire their ingenuity. Unsurprisingly, our streaking sightseer was banned from flying with that airline. He can now enjoy being too hot in the comfort of his own home. All right, so picture this. You're on a flight, trying to mind your own business, maybe catch up on a terrible movie or pretend to read a book. But then there's Guy. You know the type. The one who thinks rules are just, like, gentle suggestions, especially when it comes to his precious vape pen. This particular genius decides the airplane lavatory, that tiny little closet of questionable hygiene, is his personal vaping lounge. He probably thought he was so slick, a modern-day James Bond, but with fruit-flavored nicotine instead of a Walther PPK. He slips in there, probably checks for spies, gives himself a little smirk in the mirror, and then unleashes his dragon breath. Oh, the rebellion, the sheer audacity! What a maverick! He takes that first puff, feeling like a king, a lord of the skies, shrouded in his own artificial mist. He's probably thinking, they'll never know. I'm too clever for these airline folks. The little light on his vape pen glows, a beacon of defiance at 35,000 feet. He's not just vaping, he's making a statement. A statement that says, I value my mango passion fruit blast more than your federal aviation regulations, thank you very much. He probably imagines a slow-motion movie scene of himself, vape cloud billowing, looking cool. Newsflash, buddy. The only thing billowing is the concern of everyone else who just wants to get to their destination without any unscheduled drama or weird smells. So after the first alarm, you'd think our friend might take a hint? Maybe pack away his little cloud machine until he's on solid ground. But no, that would be too logical. Instead, he decided the first alarm was just a fluke. And like clockwork, beep, beep, beep. The smoke alarm sings its song once more. This time, he's ready with his airtight defense. It's not real tobacco, as if that's the magic phrase that makes it all okay. Spoiler alert, the authorities did not care about his nuanced arguments. Fined, heavily. Turns out it's not real tobacco doesn't hold up in court. All right, folks, we've all been there, right? You're on a long-haul flight hoping for some peace, but then you hear it. The unmistakable shriek of the wild child. 8 straight hours. That's longer than most workdays. And the mother? Unbothered. The other passengers? Desperate. As the hours crawled by, each one punctuated by fresh screams or another round of seat-back boxing, the desperation in the cabin reached critical levels. People were probably trying everything, offering the kids snacks, toys. But this child was a force of nature, untamable, unappeasable. You could see the hope draining from passengers' faces, replaced by a sort of weary resignation. An 8-hour symphony of shrieks and thumps conducted by a miniature maestro of misery with a completely indifferent parent as the producer. So, what was the only solution for these poor, trapped souls? According to the story, headphones. Big ones. Noise canceling if you were lucky. And this is the best part, inner strength. Yes, that's right. Just summon your inner warrior, your calm, meditative core, and withstand the 8-hour sonic onslaught. Easy peasy, right? Just find your chi while a tiny human is using your eardrums as a trampoline. I'm sure everyone on that flight emerged as enlightened Zen masters, or possibly just with severe tinnitus and a newfound appreciation for silence. You have to wonder what the aftermath was like. When the plane finally landed, did the child instantly fall asleep, angelic and peaceful as if nothing had happened, leaving a cabin full of traumatized adults blinking in the harsh light of reality, wondering if it was all just a terrible dream? The parents probably waltzed off, still unbothered, while everyone else stumbled out looking like they'd survived a natural disaster. That flight wasn't just a journey from A to B, it was an endurance test, a psychological experiment, and a stark reminder to always pack your best headphones, and maybe a tranquilizer gun. Kidding, mostly. Ah, the armrest. That tiny, coveted strip of plastic real estate in the sky. It's the source of so much passive-aggressive tension on flights, isn't it? The subtle elbow nudge, the gradual creep, the silent war of attrition. Well, on a flight from Paris to Marrakesh, 2 gentlemen decided to escalate this Cold War into a full-blown, if slightly bizarre, hot conflict. Forget polite jostling. These guys were ready to throw down, or at least throw down, over who got to rest their precious elbow in the middle. It's the kind of thing that makes you think, really? This is what we're fighting about now? The tension probably started subtly. Maybe one guy's elbow was a millimeter over the unspoken boundary. Then the other guy retaliates with a counter nudge. Back and forth it goes, a silent, petty battle for dominance. You can imagine the glares, the heavy sighs, the increasingly aggressive placement of forearms. Most of us would just grumble internally or maybe try the oops, sorry, didn't see your elbow there maneuver. But not these heroes. They were men of action, or at least men of impending, slightly ridiculous action. They were about to take armrest disputes to a whole new altitude. So there they are, our 2 titans of territorial disputes. One, seatbelt unbuckled, ready for anything. The other, barefoot, and presumably equally ready for, well, something involving his toes. The slow-motion brawl at 30,000 feet, like 2 confused badgers wrestling in a very small sack. Arms flailing, maybe some grunting, all while confined to the already cramped quarters of economy class. The other passengers, who were probably just trying to enjoy their complimentary beverage, suddenly found themselves with ringside seats. Imagine the flight attendants rushing over trying to restore order, trying to separate 2 grown men who are squabbling like toddlers over a shared toy. And so, after this display of peak human conflict resolution, our flip-flop fighter and his armrest adversary were greeted by the authorities upon landing. Picture this. You're cruising at altitude, just opened your tiny bag of pretzels. Suddenly there's a commotion, not the fun kind. A woman makes a beeline for the emergency exit. Most of us think, good to know it's there, hope I never need it. She saw it as an invitation. She wasn't just casually strolling, she was on a mission. The plane was trapped, like a giant metal Pringles can with wings. You're supposed to stay in it until it lands. It's not stuck in cosmic traffic. Trying to open an emergency door mid-flight is a flawed plan. Imagine the scene. 1 minute you're debating another ginger ale, The next, an impromptu audition for world's most ill-advised escape attempts. So, as our aspiring door opener is having her moment of, let's call it, altitude-induced confusion, thankfully, some actual heroes step up. Not caped crusaders, just regular folks who probably also wanted to finish their movie. 4 passengers, bless their brave souls and quick reflexes, managed to subdue her. Can you imagine that struggle? Trying to reason with someone who thinks they're on a terrestrial bus trying to get off at the wrong stop, except the stop is 35,000 feet down. These people deserve free flights for life, or at least unlimited tiny whiskeys. The flight, as you might expect, did not continue on its merry way to its original destination. No, when someone tries to redecorate the cabin with a blast of freezing thin air, the pilot tends to take that as a sign to land. Pronto. So, the plane gets diverted. Think of the other passengers. Oh great, not only did we almost get sucked out of a hole in the plane, but now we're landing in Des Moines instead of Denver. It's the kind of travel story you tell for years, usually starting with, "You are not going to believe this." And the aftermath? Well, after they landed and presumably peeled the woman off the door handle, she was diagnosed with an undiagnosed psychotic episode, which, explains a lot. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the scariest things on a plane aren't the turbulence or the mystery meat in the meal, but the unpredictable nature of the human mind. It's a good thing those doors are designed to be nearly impossible to open mid-flight. Otherwise, we'd be hearing a lot more stories like this, possibly from beyond the fluffy clouds. The best part of this particular horror story? Luckily, no one was hurt. Luckily is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. Imagine if she'd been successful. The paperwork alone would be a nightmare, not to mention the sudden, extreme, and very windy reseating arrangements. It's a testament to the other passengers and the crew that things didn't escalate into an even bigger catastrophe. So next time you fly, maybe pack an extra dose of patience and keep an eye on anyone looking a little too interested in the emergency exits. You never know. Buckle up for our grand finale of airborne absurdity, the one that makes all the others look like a mild disagreement over the window shade. This isn't just one unruly passenger. This is the Avengers of terrible airline behavior, all assembled on one fateful flight from Miami to Buenos Aires. Miami to Buenos Aires. Sounds like it should be a party, right? Well, it was a party. If your idea of a party involves screaming, fighting, and a pilot who's had enough, it's like they held auditions for Worst Passenger Ever and then cast everyone who showed up on this single flight. One gentleman, after mistaking the flight for a floating open bar, decided the crew needed to hear his opinions. Loudly and insultingly. You know the type. Suddenly an expert in aviation, customer service, and interpretive dance, all while slurring his words. This wasn't just a "hey, my headphones don't work" kind of complaint. This was a full-blown, "I'm going to tell you everything that's wrong with your life" in this airline tirade. And that, my friends, was just the opening act. While our vocal drunk was serenading the cabin crew, a fistfight decided to spontaneously erupt in the back. Yes, a fistfight. At 30,000 feet. Over what? We may never know. Maybe it was the last bag of peanuts. Maybe someone looked at someone else's cloud formation the wrong way. Whatever the reason, suddenly it's less enjoy your flight and more prepare for the Royal Rumble Sky High edition. You're just trying to watch Paul Rudd in a rom-com, and suddenly there are elbows flying 2 rows behind you. It's like a terrible snowball rolling down a very long airborne hill. We've got the drunk guy, we've got the fisticuffs. What else could possibly go wrong? Oh, I don't know. How about a woman deciding her in-flight meal would look better on a flight attendant? Yes, an actual food fight, or rather a food throw. I hope it wasn't the fish option because that just adds insult to injury. Imagine the flight attendant just trying to do their job and bam, airborne lasagna. This flight wasn't just delayed. It was actively under siege from within. Just when you think this airborne circus couldn't get any more bizarre, someone else decides to join the party. A different passenger, perhaps feeling left out of the main events, decided to trigger an alarm in the bathroom. Was it smoke? Was it a desperate attempt to summon a superhero? Or maybe they just really didn't like the tiny soap. Who knows? But now you've got alarms blaring, adding a lovely audio track to the already existing drama of insults, punches, and projectile pasta. It's like a disaster movie, but the only special effect is human stupidity. At this point, the captain, who I imagine was up in the cockpit with his head in his hands, probably muttering, "This is why I wanted to be a train conductor," made the only sane decision possible. He turned the plane around. That's right, folks. Buenos Aires would have to wait. This flying carnival of crazy was heading back to Miami. Can you imagine the announcement? Ladies and gentlemen, due to, well, everything, we're returning to Miami. Please make sure your tray tables are in the upright and locked position, and try not to punch anyone on the way out. Upon landing, it wasn't a welcoming committee with flowers, it was the police with handcuffs. 4 passengers were arrested, which frankly sounds like they might have gotten off easy considering the buffet of bad behavior. 2 people were injured, hopefully not too seriously, but still injured on a flight that wasn't even experiencing turbulence. And the flight itself? Canceled. Hundreds of other people's plans ruined because a few couldn't behave like civilized human beings in a pressurized tube. The whole thing was filmed, from every conceivable angle. It became, and I quote, a legend on YouTube. So congratulations to the stars of this show. You're not just unruly passengers, you're internet famous for being the absolute worst. I hope the views were worth the lifetime ban from the airline, which I'm sure is coming. What a legacy. Just when you think this airborne circus couldn't get any more bizarre, someone else decides to join the party. A different passenger, perhaps feeling left out of the main events, decided to trigger an alarm in the bathroom. Was it smoke? Was it a desperate attempt to summon a superhero? Or maybe they just really didn't like the tiny soap. Who knows? But now you've got alarms blaring, adding a lovely audio track to the already existing drama of insults, punches, and projectile pasta. It's like a disaster movie, but the only special effect is human stupidity. At this point, the captain, who I imagine was up in the cockpit with his head in his hands, probably muttering, "This is why I wanted to be a train conductor," made the only sane decision possible. He turned the plane around. That's right, folks. Buenos Aires would have to wait. This flying carnival of crazy was heading back to Miami. Can you imagine the announcement? Ladies and gentlemen, due to, well, everything, we're returning to Miami. Please make sure your tray tables are in the upright and locked position, and try not to punch anyone on the way out. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. Upon landing, it wasn't a welcoming committee with flowers, it was the police, with handcuffs. 4 passengers were arrested, which, frankly, sounds like they might have gotten off easy considering the buffet of bad behavior. 2 people were injured, hopefully not too seriously, but still. Injured on a flight that wasn't even experiencing turbulence. And the flight itself? Canceled. Hundreds of other people's plans ruined because a few couldn't behave like civilized human beings in a pressurized tube. And the cherry on top of this chaotic Sunday? The whole thing was filmed, from every conceivable angle. Because, of course, it was. In an age where everyone has a smartphone, you can bet your bottom dollar that this level of meltdown was going to be documented for posterity. It became, and I quote, a legend on YouTube. So congratulations to the stars of this show. You're not just unruly passengers, you're internet famous for being the absolute worst. I hope the views were worth the lifetime ban from the airline, which I'm sure is coming. What a legacy. So, there you have it. The most turbulent part of your flight isn't the air currents, but the person in 17B who thinks the emergency exit is a suggestion box. We all complain about legroom, right? Or the $7 cookies that taste like sadness and cardboard. But let's be honest, after hearing these stories, a little less knee space seems like a luxury vacation. The real gamble isn't whether your luggage will make it, it's whether your seatmate will. The tiny seats, the questionable food, the endless delays, those are just minor inconveniences. The real white-knuckle experience? That comes courtesy of your fellow passengers, the ones who see an airplane as a stage for their personal meltdowns or bizarre performance art. It's like a lottery you didn't ask to play, and the prize could be anything from an unwanted serenade to an attempted cabin depressurization. Suddenly, that crying baby 3 rows back doesn't seem so bad, does it? Have you ever witnessed something truly bonkers on a flight? Did you see someone try to microwave fish in the lavatory? Or attempt to pay for Wi-Fi with interpretive dance? We want to hear all about it. Head down to the comments and share your own tales of airborne insanity. And hey, give this video a like if you've managed to survive a flight without someone next to you suddenly yelling, "I'm a secret agent, and this Diet Coke is actually a sophisticated listening device." It's a small miracle, really. And for more unbelievable stories, travel tips, and maybe a few secrets the airlines don't want you to know, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We've got a video coming up called, and trust me, after today, you'll want to know what else goes on behind that curtain. Thanks for watching. Try to be nice to each other up there. And for the love of all that is holy, please, keep your clothes on and your hands off the emergency doors. Safe travels, or at least survivable ones.